And where would they go and live? They would try to live in a similar kind of environment, or environment that they're used to, which could be why that they went into this aquifers and they're staying there. And these aquifers are described as a kind of a paradise. If you, in the text, the aquifers are described as paradises. There are lakes and gardens and palaces, and it's some kind of a underworld paradise where these sages live and where humans are prevented from entering. It's blocked. Our entrance is blocked, and the people there they live free of diseases and there's great happiness and pleasure out there. So it's not the way that we might think that the underground is dark and dingy and lonely. It's not. That's not the way it's portrayed in the text. And uh, so so that's so the point that I'm trying to make is that uh, subterranean forms of life could actually be the most common form of life in the universe, and living on the surface like we do on the Earth could be actually an exception. So when you look at another planet and you don't find anything on the surface, any signs of living beings on the surface, that doesn't mean that planet doesn't harbor life, because the life could be underground in the subterranean aquifers. And recently, this particular interstellar rock or interstellar comet came into our solar system in 2017 called Oumuamua, and this is the first detected instance of a comet coming from outer space into our solar system, and which basically tells you that living entities from other worlds and other planets uh, which could be distributed around the galaxy. They could actually hitch a ride on these comets and come here. Normally, when you think of alien life coming to our Earth, we talk about spacecrafts, right? Advanced spacecrafts. But that's our technology. I mean, and we know that there's a lot of environmental damage that is caused by this kind of technology, right? We extract a lot of minerals. There's a lot of power wastage, and finally, there's a lot of you need a big industry to sustain that kind of program. And finally, when you get rid of that, you create a lot of garbage, right? But if an extraterrestrial civilization figures out that we can actually travel on comets and we can control those comets by certain means, then why would they need to build spacecrafts? The comets can be their vehicles across for journeying across space. And if you look at if you look at the gods, the depictions of the gods in the ancient cultures, you see that somebody is riding on a horse across the sky, or somebody is riding on a bird, horse or a bird or a dragon, like Marduk rides a dragon. And there are different kind of comets which have been described as horses. There's a horse comet actually, which looks like a horse. And as I already mentioned, the Chinese describe certain kind of comets as long-tailed pheasant bird. So comets have been described as horses and birds, and an alien civilization would have figured out a way to hitch a ride on comets and control their trajectories and come to not only planet Earth, but visit other planets and solar systems across the galaxy. So that's something that we need to keep in mind instead of always thinking of an advanced spacecraft. So now we come to the Yuga cycle, and when we talk about the seven sages, as I mentioned, the seven sages were supposed to have come to our planet during the golden age, which is the Krita Yoga in the Yuga cycle, and then they stayed on for some time, and then their mortal descendants they took over and they carried on the tradition till the end of the Dwapara or the silver or the Bronze Age. And now for the last 6,000 years we've been passing through the Kali Yuga, and that tradition has been lost. So one of the articles that I had written about was the Yuga cycle and how and trying to figure out the timeline of the Yuga cycle, when it starts and when it ends. And uh, if you look at the Indian text, they normally tell us that the Yuga cycle Yuga cycle is of 12,000 years duration. Right? But in some texts, it was inflated to, they used a multiplication factor of 360 years. So 12,000 years became 12,000 to 360 years. But that doesn't make sense in the context of what we know about our history, right? And it also doesn't match with the values of the Yuga cycle that we have in other cultures. For instance, The Persians believe in a Yuga cycle of 12,000 years, which is comprised of four ages of 3,000 years each. And the Greek ages of man was also variously presented as 10,600 years, which was that of Heraclitus. And Cicero said it's around 12,950 years. So if you look at the values across the world, it's close to around 12,000 years. And Sri Yukteswar was the preceptor of Paramahansa Yogananda. He has said that the cycle actually has two halves. There's a descending cycle when virtue actually declines, human virtue, human consciousness basically declines. So we move from a state of truth and love and justice and compassion to a state when we don't really care about truth anymore. It's only lies and deceit and greed and violence everywhere, which is the Kali Yuga that we are seeing right now. And this decline in human consciousness is one half of the cycle of 12,000 years. And then there is a gradual ascension. We move towards the golden age once again for another 12,000 years. And that's when the ancient knowledge and the ancient wisdom is rediscovered, is restored. And again, we learn to become selfless human beings. We learn to live in brotherhood and unity. And we learn to become content because a lot of one of the reasons for this decline is because we become discontent and we become selfish, we become greedy. And as soon as that happens, that in turn leads to all the other problems such as anger and violence. They follow. So the root of the problem is selfish desires, and that is what all the ancient, all the preachers, all the prophets, that's what they talk about. That you have to remove this constant selfish desire from your mind. Because one who does that, he can live in a golden age consciousness, even in the midst of the Kali Yuga, right? You can attain self-realization. You can connect to your inner source of love and joy and wisdom, even in the midst of the Kali Yuga, if you follow the process. So, but this cycle applies to humanity in general. So humanity in general goes through this declining cycle of consciousness, and which is followed by an ascending cycle of consciousness. And this total cycle is of 24,000 years, which is pretty close to the precessional cycle of 25,800 years. Now, one of the things that I wanted to work out was what is the timing? When does Kali Yuga end? And that's the next slide. I won't go into the entire details of the calculation because that will be too cumbersome at this point. So I'll just tell you some of the basic things that I found out. The first of all is that the Yuga cycles are actually of equal duration of 3,000 years, and that's what the Persians believed in. That's what Indian astronomers like Aryabhatta and others also believed in. And this is tracked using the calendar called the Saptarshi calendar, calendar of the seven sages. We just spoke about the seven sages, right? And they were the ones who gave us all the wisdom. And there's a calendar in India, very ancient calendar called the calendar of the seven sages. It has a cycle of 2,700 years. It is believed that the Saptarshi, seven sages, they spent 100 years in each of the 27 nakshatras. Nakshatras are lunar houses. So we talk about the 12 signs of the 12 constellations of the zodiac. So there's another system in which instead of 12 constellations, we have 27 lunar asterisms. Each of these lunar asterisms actually maps to the constellation. So it's not very confusing. It's just that it's a different way. It's a more granular representation of the stars that are distributed along the ecliptic. So this 2,700-year cycle of the Saptarshi that was always used in ancient India for tracking large cycles of time. So the coronations of kings or the important events, they were all used to be tracked using the 2,700-year cycle. And one of the starting points of this cycle is this 6,676 BCE date. This has been determined by a number of scholars. And what I found out is that this is the date of the descending bronze, descending Dwapara Yuga. So once you have a 2,700-year cycle and a 300-year period of transition between the yugas, the entire yuga cycle gets unraveled. So you can work backwards and forwards. And what I found out was the transition from the golden age to the silver age, that is from the Krita Yuga to the Treta Yuga, took place between 9976 BC to 9676 BC. Then the transition from the Treta Yuga to Dwapara Yuga took place between 6976 BC to 6676 BC. Then again, there was a 300-year transition from Dwapara to the descending Kali. And from the descending Kali to the ascending Kali, it was from 976 to 676 BC, which means that the ascending Kali Yuga doesn't mean that we are in a state of increasing virtue. It just means that there was a reversal in our material fortunes after the descending Kali Yuga. So we became materially more prosperous. Our lifespans also increased. But in terms of virtue, in terms of truth and honesty and integrity, we are still on a downward curve. And that curve hits rock bottom at around 2025 CE, which is just 4 years from now. As per this Yuga cycle timeline, we end the Kali Yuga in 2025, in just 4 years from now. And after that, we go into a 300-year period of transition. And that's when the current civilization collapses and is replaced by a new civilization with a new set of values and guiding principles. And this is something that happens in each of those periods of transition that I talked about. Each of these 300 period years of transition have been characterized by collapses of civilization and a new civilization arising in its place. So I'll just run through each of those four transitional periods because that's very important. That tells you that this is something that is borne out by historical and archaeological knowledge of the past. So, for example, 9976 BC to 9676 BC, this was a transition from the Golden Age to the Silver Age. And this is the exact time when the last ice age came to an end. Because the data from the Greenland ice cores they show that the ice age ended exactly in 9703 BC. In a period of 1 year, our climate changed drastically from the cold, extreme cold of the younger dryas period to the warm tropical climate of the Holocene. And this was followed by the release of enormous amount of fresh water into the oceans from 9600 BC onwards for nearly 300 years. Huge amount of fresh water came into the oceans, which submerged a lot of lands, and all of those lands may have harbored uh, ancient Ice Age civilization, which was very advanced, not only spiritually but possibly also technologically. But we don't know what ended the Ice Age. Even now, scholars and geologists they don't know what ended the Ice Age. It could have been a comet or a meteor impact, and that is something that might come out in future as we do more studies. But the reason why I'm bringing up comet and meteor impacts a number of times is because when Solon, the Greek lawgiver, had gone to Egypt, he had spoken to a priest of Egypt who had told him that these kind of cataclysms that the Greeks were talking about, the deluge, they happen very frequently, and it happens due to a stream from heaven. Stream from heaven comes down and it destroys the civilization. So the term stream from heaven kind of signifies that external impacts, comet and meteor impacts, might be the driving factor for the collapse that happens in each of these periods of transition. Right. So if I go to the next one, from 6976 to 6676 BC, that was also a time when a lot of global flooding and catastrophe was taking place. One of the main events that time was the Black Sea catastrophe. What happened was there was a Laurentide ice sheet in North America. It collapsed. A lot of fresh water was released into the ocean, which flooded the Mediterranean Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea in turn breached a natural gap through the Bosphorus Strait and catastrophically flooded the Black Sea. And the Black Sea the level is to be a lot lower than today. And then in a period of few years, the entire shoreline had changed. The level of the Black Sea had increased by nearly 400 feet. And similar events would have been happening all around the world because a lot of glacial water was being released and sea levels had increased by around 9 feet. So this was also a time when a lot of flooding and catastrophes were taking place, and scholars have also seen that after 6,700 BC, the nature of the culture that emerged in the Mediterranean area and the Black Sea was fundamentally different from the civilizations that existed before. So there was a collapse and there was a re-emergence, and the same thing happened between 3976 to 3676 BC, because that was a time when comet impact took place in the Indian Ocean, which created the Burkle crater, and that created the chevron dunes of the coast of Australia and Madagascar. And a massive tsunami went up and destroyed the city of Ur in Mesopotamia, and it ended the Ubaid civilization. And similar catastrophes are also taking place in Egypt and Middle East and India around the same time. And finally, the most recent period of transition was the time from 976 to 676 BC, which was the Greek Dark Ages, when a host of cities across the Mediterranean, they were destroyed by fire and they never rose again. And the Mycenaeans were destroyed. The Hittites they were basically eliminated from history. Even in India, the Indus Valley civilization collapsed. In Mesoamerica, the Olmec civilization based in San Lorenzo collapsed, and they had to relocate to a new location. So once again, there was a period of destruction. During the Greek Dark Ages, there was a lot of loss of human life as well, and the people used to live in isolated communities during that period, from around 1200 to around 800 BC. There was a loss of knowledge. The Greeks entirely forgot the art of writing. The Mycenaean art, linear ray writing, was completely forgotten, and they had to relearn it around 700 BC from the Phoenicians. So again, there was a collapse, and then there was a reemergence. We know about this reemergence because the classical Greek period starts right after this. In India, the new civilization on the Gangetic Valley starts right after this. So we had in China also we had a new wave of civilization. So every time we go through this period of collapse, we find that there's a destruction of the existing civilizations, and there's a re-emergence of civilization following that. And this new civilization is guided by a new set of philosophies, a new set of principles, new art, new forms of architecture. So our past is not really a gradual kind of evolution from the state of cavemen to us. It's actually cyclical, and there are periods of time when everything is destroyed and we basically start from scratch once again. This has been going on over and over again. Our past is riddled, completely riddled with catastrophes. And as we go into towards the end of the Kali Yuga in 2025, so, what do we expect? Well, I mean, this is a question that a lot of people have in their minds. I've been asked this many times. Well, if you look at the past, then you know what's going to happen in the future. And fact is that as we move towards 2025, the first thing that we are going to see is probably environmental catastrophes, which we're already seeing in the form of floods and wildfires. Because these periods of transition are very turbulent, very unsteady. You really don't know what's going to happen. And what we'll also see is because as we end the Kali Yuga, the people who are in power, the utterly psychopathic people who are in power across the world today, they'll try to consolidate their position. They try to so there'll be more lies and more deceit and more tyranny across the world. While on the other hand, the people who seek the truth and the light and the wisdom, they'll try to group together and they'll try to resist that. So there'll be a greater polarization between the forces of the light and darkness, if you may call it that. And that is also something that is going on, and that's going to increase, and that's going to increase in intensity as we go forward. Uh, Then third thing that we can expect is that there's going to be a gradual lifting of the veil between the world of the humans and the world of the spirits and the world of the gods. Now, I've already spoken about the underworld gods, right? The seven sages, the Nagas, and many other kinds of spirits that who live in the underworld realms. And what we might see is that gradually these entities are beginning to reveal themselves to us, and they might even begin to interact with humans. And two of the things that I want to point out here, one, crop circles, and that's a big mystery. We really don't know who is creating crop circles. What you do know is that many of the symbols that we see in the crop circles, they are of a fundamentally transformative nature. They seem to be telling us of a period of change that is on its way, because we see figures like that of the phoenix, figures like the winged scarab, the scarab beetle, the phoenix. These are all figures of transformation because the phoenix is the harbinger of a new age, right? The phoenix, whenever the phoenix comes into the world, the old world ends and the new world begins. That was the understanding that the ancient Egyptians had about the phoenix. So, as we go forward, another mystery that has been going on for some time are these orbs. You see these orbs floating around everywhere. They flow in, they move in formations. They sometimes chase people here and there. And they can move at incredibly high speeds and disappear from sight. And what our Indian texts tell us is that these underworld beings, they're actually all of them are capable of flying, and they have very luminous forms. And when they fly, they look like the sun. They look like another sun. And so, this whole phenomena of orbs could actually be a manifestation of some of these underworld spirit beings revealing themselves to us, right? Because science doesn't have an answer to any of them. Science actually doesn't know what's happening with these orbs. Why so many people are seeing them all of a sudden? And this phenomenon has been picking up for the last 20 odd years, and even the crop circle phenomenon has been going on for the last 30 odd years. And they could be connected. I mean, the orbs themselves could be spirit beings who are actually creating the circles to make us aware of the period of transformation that lies ahead. And they're telling us that, look, guys, you need to relearn the ancient teachings. You need to acquire the ancient wisdom. You need to go within yourself and need to find your inner source of joy and peace. Because things are changing, and it's not going to remain the same way going forward. And okay, the fourth thing we might expect are obviously meteor and comet impacts. I know there's a school of thought which feels that simply by changing our consciousness we are going to be able to bring in the golden age, but it doesn't work that way in practice, because every time there is a change in yoga, there is a time of it's also a period of cleansing, and that cleansing happens through through external impacts, through comet and meteor impacts, and that in turn sets off a lot of other a chain of events like earthquakes and volcanoes. They happen as a result of that impact. That is something that is unavoidable, and and it's better that we get used to the idea that sometime in the future, in the next 300 years, our Earth will go through a period of cleansing, and and a lot of ancient and a lot of prophecies also tell us about the same thing, that the gods are going to come back riding on their horses, and they're going to kill the wicked people and reestablish a new age where where the minds of the people will be purified, and they'll easily be able to understand the mysteries of the universe. And that's the last point that I've written, actually, the era of the fulfillment of prophecies, when the sky gods actually come back to purge the wickedness and to reestablish dharma and to infuse a new divine energy into this world, which has been missing for the last 6,000 years. And there's going to be an energetic change, which means there's going to be an energetic change. And in order to uh, be able to live through this period of transition, we need to try and tune in with that new energy that is going to come in. And I think the way to do that is to uh, let go of the attachments to this world of this material world, to this constant bombardment by the media as to what are the things we should buy and how we should lead our lives and what kind of work we should do and what kind of vacations we should do, because none of that is going to make you happy, and that is not the way forward either. We need to first learn to become good human beings, because the good human beings are going to lay the foundations of the next yuga, which is on the way. So that basically is my presentation for today. And with that, I'll stop sharing my screen. And hello, can you hear me?
Babu, that was That was awesome, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
saying while I was muted. I didn't mean to be muted, but I was just sitting here enthralled. Like, okay, if the camera would have been on me, you would have seen me go
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I was just leaned in.
because I was looking so hard at it. I'm like, all right, I gotta like remember that. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
thanks.
I was leaning in. I was looking. I was like, "Wow, that's really cool. Wow, what a great download. I really appreciate that, Billy. That was
Yeah,
what I'd imagined. I thought that in my mind that I was going to get a download of that sort, and
we
really,
knew that was coming. We
yeah,
we we were all over it. And the fact of the matter is, that's how you know it's a good presentation when you squint and lean in. You're like, all right, the computer screen's not close enough, even though it could be right on your lap. You're like, all right, I gotta see that a little closer. But no, I mean the way that you were speaking about it, but you also had the slideshow with it, and it was really contextually. I didn't know a lot about the Yuga cycles, so that to me was super. It was super informative. It was like a crash course in it. You know what I mean? I got a lot of knowledge with it. So
Thanks, guys. Thanks. I put in a lot of information in those slides, and normally, you need to spend a lot of time talking about it. And I wanted to spend, do it in 1 hour. So I think it was too much in 1 hour, probably. But at least I hope I managed to get some of the ideas across about the stages as well as the Yuga cycle.
absolutely, I think you did very well for an hour. I feel like I know a lot more about the Yuga cycles now than I did previous. That's for sure.
I have to
yeah.
ask one question though, just out of curiosity. What is the Mayan cycle? Wasn't that also a 2,700 year cycle, or was it shorter?
No, no. The Mayan cycle actually, it's 5,200 year cycle. That was
5,000.
a long count. 5,200. It started from I think 3,114 BC, and it ended on 2012. And so the end dates are pretty close. The end dates align up, and but it's things don't happen in a day. I mean, I'm saying it's 2025. That doesn't mean that something's going to happen in 2025, because the
Right.
changes have probably already started. When you look at the world today and you see all this pandemic and everything going on, and you kind of get a feeling that maybe things have already started shifting and already started changing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but we've already see a lot of the signs. If you notice, a lot of people are starting to take photographs of falling stars, meteors and stuff that have been coming into our atmosphere lately. A lot more in the past few years than ever have been. Also, our magnetic north has been shifting. I mean, it's already left Canada. It's heading towards Russia now, and things like that. So we are definitely changing, and so it just depends on how long the cycle is going to take for it to do that. Plus our polar ice caps are melting. We're
Yep.
still coming out of an ice age. So, yeah, I mean, we're not that far behind. I think you're pretty much right on the money.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question here for you, Babu, coming in from one of our platforms from New Realities. A question by Kelly. He says, those sages in India carrying the pots, were the pots made out of copper? I read so much about the healing power of drinking copper-infused water.
Well, right now I have a bottle in my house which is made of copper. Okay, so I still drink out of a copper bottle. And as far as the bottles that the sages carried, yeah, probably copper, and but I don't know what the seven sages used to carry originally, because they got the water from somewhere, from deep within the aquifers, and that was very pure water. And I don't know what they used to carry it. How long has copper been invented? I mean, discovered? Maybe I don't know, 7,000, 8,000 years ago. It could be older.
Oh,
Yeah, a
it's a
bit
lot
older.
older than that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
I
lot
mean,
older than that. Stephen and Evan Strong from Forgotten Origin, they're in possession of some Atlantis rings, and within those Atlantis rings, there's a little bit of copper being used in there, and they're thinking 10 to 14,000 years, and
yeah,
I assume it would be probably a lot older than that, the technology.
that's right. I mean, we are constantly pushing back the dates, right? Every new discovery is pushing back the dates, and probably they've been here for hundreds of thousands of years, but we
Yeah.
just don't find the evidence because of all this distraction that happens in between the yugas.
Yeah, the destruction and then the rebuild and then destroy again and then come back and then not humanity goes back at least 175 million years if we look into the root races, right? And then the first 75, 80 million years we were a light body in etheric form. So evidence from those times, I doubt there's going to be any around. But for us, we're pushing back the time now, back to the Lemurian age, and then a little bit even earlier than that. So that's very good to see that we're getting beyond this 6,000-7,000 year timeline when our common sense tells us that it's a lot longer than that. Now, I wanted to ask you, Babu, on the image that you showed with Göbekli Tepe. I found something really, really interesting, and I'd like your opinion on that. Here, I'll share my screen. There we go. Now, this is one of the pillars right here from on the left is from Göbekli Tepe, and the circle that's around that same symbol is used by the Aborigines of Australia on their chest. Do you have any information on this link and as to why the Aborigines would have this symbol on their chest, or is it the fact that this symbol that we see on the T-bars at Göbekli Tepe was borrowed from the Aborigines and then applied in their structure?
Well, as I spoke about in my presentation, the seven sages actually visited all over the world. So it's not as if one culture took it from the other culture, especially when you're talking about a timeline of 9,600 BC. They probably got all of them probably got it from the same source, which is the seven sages. And as also there are so many other kinds of gods, right? We have underworld gods and the sky gods. So it may not be that the Aborigines gave it to Göbekli Tepe or vice versa, but some common source handed over that knowledge. But we don't really know what that symbol means. I still struggle to figure out the actual meaning of that symbol. It could mean the earth and maybe the heaven and the underworld, but it could be something else as well.
I was thinking as far as above, so is below, some kind of thing like that,
Yeah, and also interesting thing about that is that the horseshoe that's in the middle of the pillars at Göbekli Tepe, and also what we see on the Aborigine, is the same type of layout that's being used at Stonehenge in England. And
right.
also to mention, there's a Stonehenge in Australia that Richard Patterson has been investigating, and through his research, he found that the horseshoe that's in the Australia Stonehenge points directly at the one in England, and the one in England points directly down at Australia. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's showing connection. There's a lot more connections there than we'd like to believe. Even to the Native American tribes and then the Aboriginal tribes. It's crazy. They spanned from Australia all the way to North America and the African Bushmen, and there's so many different tribes that run. Even just the mythology, you can tell that they all derived from the same area for sure.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to say that there's like Babu was saying, there has to be that one source from which everyone borrowed, right, the symbols and language and kind of what have you, and then just kind of spread it across the world, and then each culture kind of just added their own touch to it. Is what I'm thinking, right? Like decorating it or saying, I don't like this, maybe this will look nicer, kind of something like that. Am I on the right track there, Babu?
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I mean, we got it from a common source, and then we innovated and came up with our own styles and with our own philosophies and own designs. And then maybe there have been reverse migrations as well. So if I find some Buddhist artifact in China, I know that it's gone from India to China, right? So there have been migrations as well. which you can easily figure out. But there are certain migrations which might be much more difficult to figure out. Because humans have been sailing the oceans for ages. I mean, there have been constant interaction between Asia and Mesoamerica. People used to sail across the Pacific for thousands of years. And we find that evidence in the architecture and in the symbols as well.
It's
But
like
even now,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
even
tell
now
you.
even now there's so many mainstream historians and archaeologists who try to deny that there have been sea communication between Asia and Mesoamerica, when in fact there's such a huge mountain of evidence which says otherwise.
It goes the other way. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the biggest geographical game of telephone you've ever seen. Essentially, the same things are being said, just a tweak to it because of distance and because of the people who sat around the fires and told the stories.
Awesome presentation, my friend. I tell
Yeah.
you, you did a hell of a job. No doubt about it.
It was definitely
Nice
wild.
job.
Thanks, guys.
Just want to show you guys, this is Bibu's website. I've posted the link in the comments, and also it's on the screen. There is just, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, there's just so much information here that it will keep you busy for years. It's just, look at that, over 1 million views, visitors to the site, and the information on here is just amazing. It's just page after page after page. So I would recommend that you guys go and check out the site. So with that being said, Bibu, thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate your information. I appreciate you. And I look forward to developing our friendship. I'd actually like to have you come back on Watchers Talk and then do like a couple 2-3 hour one-on-one talk where we can really dig deep into the information that you have, and we can inform the world as to really the true history and the true information of our people.
Sure, Omar. I'll be happy to be back for any kind of interview.
Awesome. Thank you very much, my friend. A lot of respect. Much love to you. And have yourself a wonderful evening, because I know it's about 10:30 in the evening over there. So I really appreciate it. And with that being said, I'm going to bring our next speaker on. And guys, the links to Bibu's website is in the comments, and I will add them again. So that they're not like a mile up in the comments, and you guys don't have to go dig through that. So thank you very much, Bibu. I really appreciate it, brother, and have a great night. And I will bring Aaron Fowler on.
Thank you, Bibu.
Thank
you.
you.
Really
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Wow, this just gets better and better, guys. I'm
Yeah,
telling
man,
you.
that was intense.
It's
That was
freaking
wild.
awesome.
What's
Look at
going
this
on,
guy.
Aaron?
Oh,
Mr.
there's the same.
Aaron.
I don't know. There's a forest fire going on close to me because I'm seeing smoke everywhere. So I'm trying to figure out where that forest fire is, because I live close to the mountains. But I think we're all right.
Welcome to my world,
How are y'all
brother.
doing?
I've got massive fires happening around my city. There's 4 big fires. We haven't seen the sky in I don't know 3 or 4 weeks now. It's just a lot of smoke and causing a lot of problems for people that have breathing issues and lung issues and things like that, right? So hopefully all this will clear up. And so guys, this is Aaron Fowler, the shaman psychic. I've known Aaron for a number of years now, and we've had many wonderful discussions, and I watch his live streams on a regular basis. Just a very cool guy, down to earth, very human, which I like, because not a lot of us are very human nowadays. So it's nice to come across a soul or a spirit or a consciousness that you can relate with and be on the same page with when it comes to the wave thoughts of our our mind. So with that being said, Aaron, thank you very much, brother, for accepting the invitation to come on here on Total Disclosure with Full Spectrum Universe, Closer Encounters, Watchers Talk. And just before we get into that, I just want to quickly pay the bills here. I just want to let you guys know that this stream has been sponsored by Paul Anthony Wallace. Let me bring some stuff up here so I can show you guys. From the Escaping Eden series. This is Escaping from Eden, and the sequel, which just came out, The Scars of Eden. These books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and pretty much any bookstore that is around. But you know, what I would do is I would just bypass the middleman and go straight to Paul Wallace's website and order it directly from him, because it really helps the author out, and there's no need to make Jeff Bezos any richer than what he already is. And this is also sponsored by Our Alien Ancestry. They have a wonderful series going on, going into the 13th chapter once a month. They bring in 8 or 9 speakers once a month to speak about ancient stuff and a lot about Australia. And so that's very cool. And then least but not last, our final sponsor, Forgotten Origins, the Out of Australia Theory by Stephen and Evan Strong.
Yep.
This is, go to their website, forgottenorigin.com. They're published authors or researchers, and just wonderful people just in general. I will post their website addresses down below once we get into a download from our brother from another mother.
Yeah, they speak about ancient stuff.
Aaron Collar, yeah. They talk about lots of ancient stuff. We all like ancient stuff because, it's important to know where you came from in order for you to pave the road for the future paradigm that we are trying to create. And, if we don't know where we're coming from, I think we'll just build a road that looks circular, and we'll be just chasing our tails. And that's something that we don't want to do. We want to stop doing that, because that's what we're currently doing. But through downloads like the one that Aaron's about to give us, and Bebu just gave us, and Renata, and then Stephen Cummins this morning, and a lot more to come for the rest of this afternoon, is how we are going to raise our awareness and change this paradigm so that we can use the information that these wanderers that we've been waiting for are giving us. So Aaron, I'm going to give the stage over to you, brother. Give us a download, give us your thoughts on consciousness and how you see consciousness developing in this new paradigm. But please, I ask you to not mention anything that has to do with what's been going on in the last year with the virus and the pokey stuff, right?
I won't mention certain words that will get the AI trigger.
They're looking for us, and they want to shut our channels down, and we're not going to give them that opportunity. So please refrain from just speaking about that. So I'm going to toss the stage over to you. Give us a download, and then when you're ready to have a conversation with us, just let us know, and we'll just jump right back on.
Okay, so we'll just tune in to a message for all of us.
Maybe if you want to pull out a card or anything like that, it's up to you, man. It's your hour. And
we can do that. I don't need a card, but I can pull it out. That's how I do it live usually anyway. So let's,
sure.
Let's do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm digging that background
So
too.
hope everybody's doing well. Please share this out for Omar and everybody that's a part of this. All the speakers, show us some love, please. Trying to spread a good message. Hopefully that will reach you and reach your hearts, reach your minds, so that you can go on and spread a message of similar caliber, of similar truth, to help wake us all up. Because we're all waking up a little bit more every day if we're willing to. Some of us aren't. Some of us are afraid of that, and I think we need to let go of fear. We need to jump right through it. I feel like that's important. I think, as you can see, we can be led by fear. It's pretty evident right now. So it's important that we don't let fear lead. Fear is always going to be there. Fear can be a good thing sometimes. Panic is never good. We're going through, I'm going to be careful how I say this. We're going through a time where lies are being uncovered by truth, where we are moving up in our consciousness, let's say to the fifth dimension. We're in the fourth dimension now. We're moving up into our consciousness a little higher. As we do that, structures crumble. We see things as they are and not as we just as we want them to be. We no longer ignore what is right in our face, what is within us, being like you were just saying, like Omar was just saying, that our origin, where we come from. We are more than just a human. We are much more than just a human, and we need to remember that. And that's what the buried earth card talks about. When you see that person under earth, this is a good healing. This is the beginning of our ascension, or our moving up into our higher consciousness. However, we can stay there too long, buried, like an ostrich burying his head in the sand. This is something that we don't want to do. That can be very dangerous. We can tend to avoid life in general and stop having fun and stop playing. And I think and connecting with each other. I feel like all of these things are very important. As long we can take some time to process some of these difficult emotions and difficult things coming at us every day, but realize we are in a spiritual war. We're in a war of spirituality, of thought, of mind. And guess what runs everything? Guess what creates everything? What is the all? The all is the mind. It all comes from our minds, collectively and individually. Remember, collectivity and individuality need to be balanced, or we have a problem. It's good to look out for each other, but also look out for yourself. Self-care is just as important as looking out for your brother or sister. Stone people, we know what we need to do. It's within us. Again, just ignoring the truth doesn't allow us to grow. Whether it's a great truth we just found out that we love to hear, or it's an ugly truth. We need to accept all of them. Truth will lead us up, will lead our consciousness to onto the wider spectrum of life in general. So as we move up, we move through, we die. We let our old selves die. We let our third dimensional type of thinking die, and we start to see through the cracks of the walls that are crumbling right now. As we do this, things will be very intense, be very scary, but we do not let that fear lead. We do not let that fear keep us paralyzed, keep our heads in the sand. So the message from Spirit, the transmission I get is this, though this is something, there are a lot of things being thrown at us, attacks, abuse. This is actually going to have the opposite effect. It is going to open us all up. It is already doing that. I mean, I'm seeing it everywhere, more so than I ever have. I'm seeing a lot more people aware and alert, and not just trusting of somebody just because they tell you that's the official story. So the message from Spirit, walk through fear. You know where you're supposed to go. You know your path. You know your purpose in this time in your life. Everybody is pulled in that certain direction. Whatever your purpose is, follow it, and follow it intensely. Immerse yourself into your own path. Know who you are. Know where you want to go. Know what you can contribute to this life and to humanity and to those generations we will leave behind someday. What are we leaving them? Share your love. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and speak your own truth. Always do that. That's the most powerful thing you can do. And remember to always share love with others. We always come from a place of love, always come from a place of the heart. That's one of our most powerful weapons. But as the things that are being done to us will actually, the cause and effect of that will flip-flop things right back to in our favor. We have the power. We all, as a society, as humans, as souls, we are the ones that make the change, not just a few people. We decide what changes and what doesn't. So be more conscious of how you're living your life, with the things you're buying, who you're supporting. Always make a conscious effort in every aspect of your life, with every step you take in this life. Much love to all of you. I hope that reached everybody. I hope that resonated with you. All right. So there was the transmission, brother. It was a pretty good one. I imagine when you're like getting ready to have me on, okay, I got to tell Aaron, let me just disclose this, not to say anything. I know, because I did that pretty well, right? I didn't.
Yeah, I like that.
Go too far into that. Nothing to get us blocked.
Got a question for you, Aaron. Maybe you can touch on this. You're a pro at this, and you understand this quite well. It's from our YouTube channel, from Darina Yardanova. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. She says, I don't know anything about the paradigm shift that we're going through right now. Can you please touch on
polar
that?
shift?
Yeah.
From what I know, I mean, I'm not a scientist. All I can tell you is how I understand it is Earth is magnetic, just like everything else. It's electromagnetic energy, right? If you've ever looked into electric universe theory, and the Earth will actually wobble. Like, when you put two magnets together and they're opposing, it will actually wobble a little bit, just like those magnets do. And that's where the shift comes. And it happens a lot. It happens over thousands of years, to my understanding, or hundreds of years. So we don't feel it like a big wobble all of a sudden. It's kind of a gradual thing. And as we shift, we do shift into that higher dimension. It's something that really just kind of activates all of us. Some of us can ignore it for years and just put it off. It's kind of like the movie The Matrix, right? We would rather be in that safety and comfort, or appearing to be safe and comfortable, than live our lives free and live our lives with adventure. And that was a question I asked the other day, and a lot of people, I was kind of amazed by how many people were trying to pick both. I'm like, you don't really get both, right? You can have a balance, but you don't really get both. You don't get comfort and safety and freedom and adventure, because safety and adventure and freedom just don't work that way. But as far as the pole shift, I mean, I feel like that's part of the ascension. It's part of where we're moving to. It's something that we've been to before. We've been here before. It's I believe they call it the what is it called? Something the equinox. Come on, Omar, you know the equinox or something of the equinox. We come around to this every like 30,000 years. I'm not sure exactly how much time.
The precessional cycle, the
precession of the equinox. Yes, precession of the equinox.
26,500 year precessional cycle, because the Earth is on, well, it used to be on a straight up tilt like this, but now I believe it's on a 22.5 degree tilt like this. And then it takes 22,000 years for it to go in a full circle in all of the 13 zodiacs. And it makes a full circle, and then it begins again. Now the pole shift, I'm not too familiar on the pole shift myself. Haven't really looked much into it. I haven't really had interest in that, because it just happens, once every few million years. And and I doubt that there's going to be one happening anytime soon. Yeah, the North Pole and the South Pole are moving right now, but that's just normal.
But they're not going to flip completely, right? They're not flipping completely.
Yeah, they're not just going to do a total flip.
A little bit. It's just all you need is a little shift to perception.
It could very well be that when these pole shifts happen, it could be that when a paradigm shift happens, like the one that we're going through right now, maybe during that time there's a pole shift, because there's a change of energies and an exchange of energies. So it could be something towards that. Sorry, Clarence, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother. You were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, as far as the magnetic shift and stuff like that, they claim that this has flipped before, and that we are on this trajectory now of it flipping again. And just like he was saying about the magnets and stuff, it acts just like that, when you go one way, the magnets will attract to each other. And as we go the other way in reversal, they want to separate. And that's the part that we're going through right now, is the separation part.
Yeah. Right.
Let's quickly touch on the paradigm shift that we're going through, because I feel that the pole shift and the paradigm shift is kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And maybe the pole shift won't happen immediately after the paradigm, after this energetic shift that we're going through happens. Maybe it'll happen, somewhere in the future. But I feel that they both are connected hand in hand. So what do you think about this paradigm, this energetic shift that we're going through? Because I know that you're quite familiar with that, because you speak with people on almost a daily basis, answering questions similar to this, mostly about people's lives, but those lives are really dependent on the energy shift and the position of the planet and the sun and things like that.
Right. Well, I feel like a lot of this came from us, from the internet here, because we can share so much information, which we can always do that collectively in with telepathy, right? We always feel each other. But now we have like actual visual. We can show people things. We can show what's been going on and what was been like. We're realizing we've been lied to a lot, right? That a lot of things put up in our face every day were a lie, or just someone's narrative that they want to keep it that way so you don't see other things. And you can't hide that anymore. You can't. What we're going through is because people are willing to accept truth. They're willing to see it, look at it, share it with others. And it's like, I see it like those that are trying to do that to us, right? It's like they keep trying to plug holes in a boat, and the hole is just multiplying. It's like waves or floods of information that have really, be on a practical level. That's what's happening. And because of that, we're, also because of the internet, we are able to kind of touch deeper into our spirituality, because we can talk to each other. We can relate on many different things, anything, and learn from each other. That's that collective kind of spirit that we have together, utilizing our own opinion, like I'm speaking of right now, my own feeling, and look the way I look at it, and then yours, and then his, and we have a collective information, but we also have different perceptions about it, which I think is helping us open up. People that are, many whistleblowers that are, dared to speak up about things. That's why we're in this position we're in now, because more people are seeing that there is a false matrix created to kind of guide us in a certain direction and keep us from thinking about the things we would naturally think about, or the things that we would naturally do. I mean, it's pretty evident right now, if you haven't noticed. The narrative control is pretty out of hand and so desperate. I mean, I see it as like, it seems like it's an act of desperation now. It's really funny to watch squirming going on.
Yeah, it seems like that, because yesterday we had Eleanor on, and also Dr. Rita Louise, and they both talked about, Eleanor talked about these dark entities that, are vibrating at a different distortion, that they can see us, but we can't see them. And then Dr. Louise came on, and she talked about these dark entities as well, but how to treat trauma that these things have created on us. And from the energetic shift that's happening right now and the whole narrative that's happening, for me, it seems like that this is like a last-ditch effort for this, power that's been controlling the planet for the last 10, 12, 14,000 years, that it's really coming to an end for them. And they can see that humanity is going through a really beautiful but a painful, energy shift. And they're trying their absolute best to keep us in that low density, that low distortion, so that we remain in one of the parallel paradigms that are taking place. Because there's, of course, there's a number of different timelines that are happening, and we're all existing in these different timelines. And I heard from Daryl a couple of weeks ago, he's been channeling Bashar for 40 years, and Bashar, has been giving him info. And the way Daryl had explained it is that, imagine yourself on two railroad tracks. You're on one train and people are on the other train. And, this energetic shift that we're going through, as we go forward, those trains are going to go apart like that. And when they begin to go apart, then we're going to disappear out of their reality and they're going to disappear out of our reality. And then we'll live in the bliss that we've created for ourselves. And the others will live in, whatever timeline that they've chosen for themselves, more than likely catastrophic, because the Aborigine prophecies and the Hopi prophecies, they kind of, go hand in hand, where they're saying that we're going to come to a point where there's going to be a fork in the road, and that fork in the road, we're going to make our choice, whether we choose love and or we choose hatred and loathing, and those two are going to create a different form of energy, and whichever energy wave that we're riding on is going to be the reality that we create for ourselves. And that's kind of what I'm seeing right now as to what's happening.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's makes a lot of sense. I mean, we can see that just with each other, right? There's some people that I can start to talk to, and I'm trying to share what I've found out or the discoveries I've made, right? And they won't even listen. So, I mean, really, we can look at it. Some people are just choosing to go down a dark path. It's just like when we die, like we can relate to when we pass, and when we let go of this mortal shell, we choose to go where we want to go, right? If we want to be in that bliss, if we want to be in that heaven as well as here, we can do it here as well. We choose that. If we want to be in that hell, if we want to be in that small-minded thinking place where we feel safe again, where we feel safe and comfortable, we'll choose to be. We'll see these people. I mean, my family's not going to disappear because we're on two different timelines, and we're always going to stay connected with these people, whether they are willing to open up or not. But a lot of it is just because it's their stage. If they're not willing to learn and not willing to open up, they're not ready for that yet. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I see it, as far as, when I've given readings and some of the, vision quests I've went on and some of the remote views that I've went on. Yes, there is a whole other thing going on we're not seeing. We're not only seeing a tiny bit of a spectrum that's, this big. We're seeing that much, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on around us that we're not seeing. But as we do allow ourselves to expand and open our mind, I think the bliss to me and to a lot of us is really seeing things for what they are, and then being able to kind of manifest and be masters of our manifestations, change things. We can change the structure if we can see what needs to be fixed. Mm-hmm. If we can, a lot of these are tearing themselves down because there's so much corruption there. It's just, people can see it, like we said, blatantly. I mean, it's just right out there now. They're not even really trying to hide it or slow play it anymore, which was clever. Now it's just on you. And I think these are the things that are crumbling the old ways, and or the ways of control. And yes, we may split into two different places, but I feel like that happens more when we leave our mortal body.
Yeah. I resonate with what you're saying, that my son is just not going to disappear because he's vibrating at a different distortion than I. It's more, I think it's more metaphorically that the realities that we create for ourselves, the mindset that that we're not going to vibrate at the same level. They're going to have their own reality, we'll have our own reality, but we'll still mingle together. But not like the old rapture where we're just going to disappear and poof, gone like a fart in the wind. But
something else I want to kind of bring up too. He kind of touched on it just a little bit, just a few seconds ago. Back in the ancient times, especially with all these, different tribes and whatever, their whole life was based on religious upbringing. The whole clan, the whole group. This is what they live for every single day, and we've lost that as the human race has progressed to where we are now. And I think it's really hard for people, especially modern people, to get that reality, to be able to step backwards in time, so to speak, and get that.
Well, they have a religion that just shifted to a material thing. So, they have a material religion where everything is about, success and how much money can I make and how much stuff can I have? How much power do I have? That's a religion in itself, because people do follow that pretty religiously. They get up every morning. They strive to do that every day. I think it's just losing connection with yourself and what you truly are is, in my opinion, is what the problem is. Kind of detaching yourself from, when you die, are you going to be able to bring all this stuff with you? No. You're going to leave it. So why hold on to it so much? Anything that, the more you own, the more it owns you.
Yeah,
so
weighs you down.
I think people get out of that. It doesn't mean that money's a bad thing or making, being successful is a bad thing. It's a very good thing. I think it's the way that we think about it and how much time and obsession do we put into it and how much do we rely on it other than just, I'm ready to go out into the woods and build a community out there. And I'm not thinking about making a lot of money, just sustaining myself and my family and others that are willing to, that want to be, want to come to a place like that or a retreat or a sanctuary. I want to do something like that, but I'm not thinking, I'm thinking of money to raise so I can build something like this. I'm not thinking about, I want to be, a multimillionaire. It's not about that for me. It's about sharing the wisdom that I have and that I've learned over the years and allowing that healing to take place, without many distractions. So it's really about, like I said, it's about thinking consciously about really, do you really want to be in this mindset all your life? I mean, I've seen people that are in that mindset and they're constantly stressed and they don't allow it to just flow. They feel like they can force the flow. Anybody trying to force that flow of life, they get really disappointed constantly. So,
well, I think we're set up. I'm sorry, Omar. I was just going to say, I think we're set up for disappointment as we're growing up.
Yeah.
As you're being raised from a child on up into adulthood, that's the one thing that they teach us. You got to get ahead. You got to get ahead. You got to get ahead. You got to prosper.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we lose the reality of things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You got to have a fallback. Like, what's a fallback? That means I'm giving up, right? Instead of just going for what you want to go for, which they teach you when you're young, right? We all get taught to use our imagination and create, and and then as we get a little older, okay, well now you need to be an adult, so we can't do that anymore. And I think that's where we lose that connection with our own creator souls, right? We were meant to create. We were meant to bring new things to this world or destroy. We choose, right? But we're more naturally prone to create. And I think that gets stifled a lot because we're not able to some of us aren't able to let our children, thrive in that imagination, because imagination is what brings all of the new things here to life, right? And new inventions, new discoveries, it's our imagination and our vision that to see that and know where we're going that really creates that in manifests here. We have to move forward, and to do that, we have to be able to use our imagination.
Yeah, that and that's one of the reasons why these dark entities, find us tasty is because one, we have this creative ability where we can paint and draw and write and do things creatively, and what this force that's working against us lacks imagination. It has no imagination. It's just very static and very I'm not really quite sure the word that I'm looking for here, but it's just very static. It has no imagination, and it feeds on our energy because our creativity creates that higher energy. When we paint something, we feel good about it, or when we build something, we feel good about it, and our energy is higher. And and through all the creative processes, it creates our energy and it goes higher and higher. And I think that's why these things that that we're interacting with is so attractive to us. You know, and I wanted to say what you know, Clarence pointed out on earlier. I created a video on my channel called Programmed Minds, and within that video, what I talked about was the you know, it's our parents' fault and my fault as being a parent that our children and us are in the position that we are in today, because when we're born, our parents are always pushing us to get a higher education, go to university so that we can make money. And you know, if you're you know, a dishwasher, you're not going to make any money, but if you're an engineer, you're going to make lots of money. And money seems to be the go-getter thing, right? Money, 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 money. And I think what that's done is that that's really confused our mind as to the real nature of why we're here, right? That's something that's not explained to us. I didn't explain that to my children either, so I'm guilty of that. But you know, you can bet your ass that I'm going to be teaching that to my grandchild when you know, she's born in a couple of months. That you know, money is not everything. You know, becoming a doctor or an engineer is not really the top goal of life. It's how you approach your life and how you approach other people, and how you use your energy while you're here is the real true goal of this world, is to love. So you know, the sausage factory that we get squeezed out of, you know, really destroys our creative imagination, like you were saying, Aaron. You know, when we're in like grade 1, grade 2, kindergarten, grade 3, they want us to draw and paint and color and all these things. But by the time we start hitting, you know, middle school and you know, and upper high school and stuff like that, all of that creative visualization and creativity is a wayward out the door. And then now we just repeat, and that's it. So you know, that's something that we need to change as well in order for us to break the cycle that we're in, right? The circular cycle that we just continue to chase our tail over and over again by teaching our children the same thing that we've been taught. That's natural. But now that we're becoming aware that what we've been taught was a false and it was a lie, then I don't really think we should continue to teach that to our children either.
Right.
You know, like the Easter
Well,
Bunny.
I feel like it's a place for both. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Somebody tried to
I was
talk.
done, brother. No, I was done.
Okay. So I think there's a place for both. I think it's important that we don't get too carried away with it, with that pursuit. If you're going to school to learn something you don't really want to learn, but you're going into it for money, you're not going to be very good at that profession. Because you don't love it. It doesn't move you, right? And I think it's important that we do go after things that we will enjoy and we can actually continue to do. And we do get a degree. Someone gets a degree in one field, and then they realize that's not really what they're into, and then they move on. That's okay. But I feel like too many people are driven by that materialism, by look how much I have, look how good I look how nice my house is. It's more of a status thing. It's, you know, it's keeping up with the Joneses thing. It's that I think that we disconnect ourselves from who we truly are and our connections with each other when we start thinking about it very selfishly and you know, really specially.
Yeah, I hear you on that, brother. I got a question coming up here for you. This is what we were talking about actually earlier. Let me touch on this because it's very interesting. You know, Clarence, Rob, you guys probably have some input on this as well. It's from Who Am I? It says, Watchers, precision of the equinox confused. No, every 26,500 years, a catastrophic transition occurs, but also hearing a catastrophic event can occur every 12,500 years. What is that? It seems like it's broken in two, right? You know, halfway through the cycle, something, you know, the earth wants to clean up, and then something happens and goes on for another 12, and then another thing happens. So, you know, I don't think it's like every 26,000 years that a cataclysmic event is happening. It seems that it's every 12,000 years and also every 36 million years, right? So it's both of them, because we know that all these events that have taken place here on Earth.
Right?
Pardon me?
I said it's partly about the cycles. I mean, we're moving around through space. Our solar system is moving through space. It's moving through different areas of space, right? And it's also moving within itself, as I've seen it, right? That's just from my opinion. But yeah, I mean, from what I looked at, the work of like Randall Carlson, talking about how we have an event or an extinction event like every few thousand years. I mean, I see that. I really tend to believe that more than anything else that I've read as far as history goes and geography or is the study of Earth. I feel like, yeah, we do go through these events, and humans always live through them. Not many, but enough to really kind of get things back on track. So it's kind of that's what I would call a global reset.
For me, when I hear that, like in the beginning of the cycle, it's essentially the rebirth of man, and then about halfway through, there's a great tribulation or a great strife, a testing moment in that middle area to see how far man has come. So it's a cycle. It's just, it's like a gauge.
Yeah.
I really feel like that because it's always this great tribulation that man has to work through in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great thought, Rob. I never really thought about it from that perspective. Excellent thought on that. I think I'm going to steal it and use it.
Go ahead, bro. I give you full rights to that one, but
right on.
That was a freebie. No, I'm joking.
Clarence, your thoughts on that?
I definitely have to agree with that. And just like Aaron was saying, we are in a universe that's constantly moving. And, the Earth itself is constantly moving. All our planets around us are constantly moving. Everything is in a motion. And this is, how this cycle goes. And it's just like everybody was saying, you're going to get the ins and outs, as you go along. And of course, we only live ourselves, 100 years, let's say, or 70 years or whatever. So we only see just a little tiny smidgen of this, but when you put it in perspective of thousands to millions of years, now you're seeing a broader change, So we may be only on one part of this little tiny cycle, of the vastness, you know what I'm saying? So, and this is where the concept, you have to understand how this all works, trying to get that grasp of reality, so to speak.
And also to add to that is this little smudge of time that you're talking about, Clarence, that's only been in progress for several thousand years. Right. Prior to that, humans lived, 1,000 years, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 10,000, 50,000 years. And there was a time when humans actually didn't die. And the only way to leave this planet was when they just willed themselves, when they said, okay, I've had enough, I'm gone. And then they left. So back in those days, they probably went through a number of different precessional cycles to highlight what Rob was saying, because maybe they went through that and then learned from it and then progressed, and then another event happened, progressed, learned from it, and just kept going on and on and on. And then when our lifespan got shorter, right now it just seems like out of our reach that oh wow, it's 26,000 years, that's a long time. And in reality 26,000 years is not that long, right? It's just a flash like that and it's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's another question. I have mixed thoughts about this question, guys. Let's start with Aaron on this one. Is from Dariana. Why are we lower than animals, and yet we are the creators of reality? Aaron?
What was that? Why are we lower than animals, and yet we're the creators of reality? Because we're co-creators. I don't think you could call us lower or higher on that, right? On that spectrum of, I don't consider that. I feel like the animals are a lot ahead of us in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of ways that we are beings. So animal spirits come through as animal spirits in the higher worlds, the higher realms, from what I've seen. Human spirits, or those that were human, if they want to keep their spirit there, or keep that image of who they were, or someone else, it's just, it seems like animal. I mean, I'm not sure about how you evolve from an animal to a person or animal spirit. I don't see that as much. I see it more as different type of entity. And I just feel like there's no higher or lower. I mean, I've got animals that treat me like I'm their human. They're not my animals. I'm more like they're human. So it's really kind of it's an equal thing. It's just a different type of being. But we're all connected, right? There is no higher and lower than animals or higher than us.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I wouldn't go out into the jungle in Africa and, or the Serengeti and play with the lions because, yes, they would have control at that point.
I play with lions every day, man. Up on sleeping right over there.
Yeah, I'm connected to spirit directly.
I have a thought on this.
Rob, yeah.
We used to be equal, and through things like mankind and emotion, something that animals have, but not to that severity. They live symbiotic with their existence and their nature and the planet itself.
Right.
I think over time we de-evolved, so we were at an even keel for a very long time, and then through indoctrination of certain things, and a lot of the stuff that's out there now, it's lowering our frequency at such a rate that now we're striving to catch back up to the animals.
That's a really great thought.
Probably.
Yeah, I like that. Clarence?
Yeah, animals never changed. Animals have always stayed the same throughout history, where the human genome has always changed. And yeah, I think Rob hit it right on the head, But there again,
I'll play devil's advocate and say, "Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead."
No, go ahead.
Well, I'll say, I mean, that's us evolving. You notice that we're evolving faster, and you could call it devolving. You also call it evolving as well. So there's kind of, I don't know. It's a hard question. That's a question, just to answer. Period. But I see it as we are equals. We just think differently. An animal doesn't think about the things we do. Animal doesn't get up in the morning and say, "I've got to go do this." Animal just says, "I need to eat right now, so I'm going to go get food." Or there's danger, so I'm going to get out of here, or I'm going to stand up for myself if I need to. They don't think the way we do it. In a lot of ways, that is the better way to think, instinctively. However, when we're instinctive beings and completely instinctive about things, which I think does separate us from the animals in a good way, we don't tear somebody's throat out and eat them all and share and sit there and, you know what I mean? Like we don't do that. I mean, we do hunt still. We use guns. We do it a little bit quicker. It's a little bit more humane. We do process the animals. We make sure that, and that does help with the, the overgrowth of whatever animal we're hunting. So, I mean, we can argue about both sides. I mean, really, are we evolving or are we devolving? In some ways, I think we're devolving. In other ways, I think we are evolving. And that's what kind of separates us, if there is any separation from animals or animalistic thinking.
Right.
I myself, I don't think that there is higher or lower between animals and humans. My thought is that we share the same consciousness, and I decided, or the great source, the infinite consciousness, decided that I'm a point of attention of its consciousness, and I exist. And an animal, a cat, a dog, a camel, an elephant, whatever it may be, it shares the same consciousness as the one that I'm sharing. So it's just a different expression of that same consciousness. So for me, I find that we're both on an equal level. But to echo what Rob said, is over the course of the last several thousand years, when we've come into contact with this force that we're forced to interact with, has de-evolved us to the point where we're no longer communicating with animals, and we're no longer resonating with the animals at the same level as they are, because we're just in this different state of mind. Perhaps that will change in the future, but also, I'm a believer of the fact that, I am infinite consciousness, all possibilities, everything is within me. So when I incarnated onto this planet, perhaps I incarnated into this planet with this form of consciousness that I currently have to experience this lower form of consciousness than the higher level of consciousness that I actually am. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we are, so separated from the animal kingdom, is perhaps this is just all part of that experience of this low density for us to experience and then go back to the higher state that we actually are.
See, and I just wanted to point something out too, like we were talking about earlier, was when it comes to animals and stuff, here again, back in ancient times, and not even really that far back, right here in North America, and stuff with our Native American brothers and stuff, they used animals sacredly, and I'm not saying as sacrifices, but I'm saying they walked and talked with the animals. They, they looked at the animal as a being, they only took what they needed for food and they left the rest alone, and they always taught each other, that there is a spirituality between human and the animal. And we've lost that, and that's all I kind of wanted to say about that,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. We have lost some of our connection. I feel like with plants as well. I mean, with just even inanimate objects. I mean, everything has life. Everything's connected to us. Everything we're part of. We're part of a field, right? We're all part of the same field. And I think, we are connected. Some is, thinking on this consciousness, and they're in this consciousness. So like a human consciousness. Others are in an animal consciousness. There's some, I'm not sure, of course not, but yeah, you could include whatever you wanted to, right? If you wanted to experience it, you probably have that.
Let me hit you with this question. This is directed to you, Aaron. This is from our YouTube channel from Rick Keefe. Question for Aaron: can he discuss his use or relation to Metatron's cube shown in the background of his screen? Any process he uses for his work in relation to Metatron and sacred geometry? Thanks.
Yeah, good visuals. I mean, the sacred geometry really represents the all, right? Everything, the building blocks of life. So as far as like how deep I get into it, I utilize it and I learn about it. It's really not, there's not really one sigil I follow. I mean, it's all, I like what I see. It makes me feel better when I look at it. So I figured I'd share it with everybody. I know you want something more mysterious, but that's really why I like it. I get into sacred geometry, ancient Egyptian knowledge, or like Book of the Dead, all different types of spiritual or religious teaching. Now I'm deciding to put this in the background. But I'm open to all of it, but I do love Metatron's cube. I mean, I have a cube that I've made right here, resin one. So
nice.
Yeah, I love sacred geometry. It's just the image that keeps showing up to me right now, so I'm utilizing it. I use it more for sigils, just to share that energy that I'm feeling. That's really it. No real intricacies. Oh my God, I can't say that word. No real like detailed. There's nothing really there as far as like any kind of spell I'm putting on or anything like that. But I do work with the flower life because I feel part of it, right? It's like I said, the building blocks of life. Intricacies. That's what I was trying to say. Just another place to put me in the mood, put me in that headspace.
I like that, intricacies.
Or go quiet. What's up, man?
It got quiet, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, sorry, guys. Just through the commentary, looking for any questions for Aaron. So don't mind me. I'm just doing some.
I agree with Aaron. You go to the stuff that you resonate with. That's what it is, and then you use that to explore the nature of your reality, and your reality is done through your perception. So therefore, those are going to be the most powerful things to you.
Yep. That's it.
Aaron, how long have you been practicing shamanism?
Oh, probably a good, I mean, shaman about 10 years, but other, or just, doing clairvoyant work or spiritual work, about 23, 24 years.
And you're generational as well, right? You're like the fourth generation, I
Yeah.
believe. And your daughter, Indigo, is the fifth generation.
Right.
Now, how did you get into this? Like, how do you become
Well,
a
it's
shaman?
always something I wanted to do, right? So it's always something felt like I had those abilities. It really just throughout my life when I was younger, certain experiences happen or certain things I'd go through. And when I got to about 20 years old, I started to, I really wanted to start doing that work. And about 21 years old, I got an opportunity. Well, I lost my job as a construction. I used to install cabinets, and I lost my job there. So I think that was around, the time when everything kind of crashed and the housing crashed. So my mom says, "Hey, I've joined this site," and she reads tarot cards. And she said, "I'm gonna, do you want to join it?" And I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to do that, And so she signed me up and just turned me on. Like, it was just kind of an online psychic line. So I just started taking calls. She gave me some cards to use, which I can't even find anymore. They don't even make them anymore, which I'm upset about it. Like $1,000 for those cards now, but Rock Art Tarot, if you want to look them up. Anyway, so I started using these cards, and I could just see stories. I could just see my visions. I get visions from looking at the cards when I was talking to somebody. Of course, she gave me a little thing that kind of referenced what the cards meant, but I ended up not using them because I was just like, well, every person I read for is going to be different, right? It's all going to be different vibes. So this card may say this for one person, but it says this for another. And just started getting into it, immersed myself into it. Was able to pay my bills, right, and not become homeless. And so, I mean, the rest is history. I've done over thousands of readings from to people all over the world, and I love it. I love what I do, and it just keeps getting better as I go. So, I'm very grateful to be in this position to be able to do this. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Cool. That's very cool. I wish I was, had abilities like that, which I kind of do, but nothing at the level that you're at. I actually need to daydream and then go into a state of mind in order to get a download or get some sort of information that I'm after. Normally, it doesn't work out for me. I just get if I go in there with the intent of looking for a particular thing, then usually it doesn't pan out for me 99.9% of the time. And I usually come back out of that state of mind with a different form of information, but something that kind of relates to what I was looking for, right? But it's all practice.
Come see me, brother. Send me a message. I'll show you how to do it. You can do it. That doubt right there is what's stopping you. I'm not getting the exact result that I was looking for. Well, that's probably because
you're right.
what you thought you were going to see wasn't exactly what you were seeing.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question coming from Dariana. She says, how do you relate to people who are showing other spirits in the directed to you? Do you just leave when they speak to you, or do you comfort them?
How do I relate to people who are showing other spirits in the directed to you?
I'm not really catching that.
I'm not quite getting that.
Yeah, Dariana, can you redefine that question in the comments, please? And then we'll get to that as soon as you define that question for us. Carol says, please define being a shaman.
Well, if I define it, then it kind of takes from it. It's not. A shaman is just a traveler, someone who utilizes their abilities to travel to different places, learn, seeking shamanic medicine. We also utilize our skills and the things we've learned of the etheric gift that we have to heal. Whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally, or all of them. So a shaman is more of like a medicine man, an energetic healer, an energetic seeker, a traveler. There's many definitions, but that's how I see it. That's how I feel about it. They also will do rituals and different, like I said, different medicines, plant medicines. I'm into the plant medicines, don't get me wrong, but I'm not as much into the growing them or anything yet because I'm not in a place I can do that. But mine is basically using my clairvoyance and my psychic gifts. So a lot of it is emotional and mental healing, which can relate to the physical healing as well. Because when we're emotionally out of balance and we're mentally out of balance, we're probably going to be physically out of balance as well. So think of me as like an etheric healer. I use the ether, I use the other dimensions and the information I can get from them, or the energy I can get from, depending on who I'm working with at the time, all to bring more healing, whether it be more clarity or just getting rid of some type of we have or we've been dealing with, like I said, physically, mentally, or emotionally. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would consider a shaman, and also a mentor. I mentor people as well. So if they would like to get kind of closer to their shamanic abilities, I wasn't in a tribe, and I was born and the wind was blowing a certain way. It had nothing to do with that. It was me choosing this path because I knew that was the path that was right for me. Mm-hmm. So that's how I see it. That's what I would how I've seen it and how I understand.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the medicine man and shaman. They mostly go hand in hand. To me, a shaman, when I think of a shaman, I'm thinking more on the lines of a teacher, someone who is respected within their tribe. Someone that has ancient knowledge, sacred knowledge, and that that they can apply. For me, that's kind of what shamanism is. You go to someone. Let's say you want to go on an ayahuasca trip. You would go to a shaman and ask for the shaman's guidance in going into a trip like that, or a mushroom trip, or a peyote trip, something like that. Right? For me, that's the doctor of the soul, right? Doctor of consciousness, of the energy. That's what shaman to me is when I think of a shaman. When I think of you, that's what I think of, right? So, you're the only shaman I know.
I agree.
Chanel Wolford, can you mention the book on sacred geometry and the book with Sigil, please? Thank you. I'm not sure which book she's talking about. Maybe, Chanel, you can define that question in the comments, please, and we will come back to that. Here's a good one. Where'd it go? What is the difference? What is the difference with being a shaman or being a medium and reading tarots? I don't think there is a difference, is there?
Reading tarot and mediumship are just tools of the trade. So medium work means connecting with those who have passed on for others, or people who would like to connect. But that's just one part of the bag, right? That's one of the tools in my toolkit, but it doesn't define me. Neither does shaman, right? Shaman is just a good way for people to know what type of energy I'm going to be giving them. It's just a good way to let them know this is who you'll be dealing with, right? If they do choose to get an appointment or make an appointment with me. So there's difference in shaman. He just explained it like as far as we're teachers, we're astral travelers. We seek knowledge usually for healing or for more clarity, to share more wisdom, right, of what we've found. A medium work comes hand in hand with clairvoyance and what I'm doing. So there's no difference really. It depends on where we're connecting our energy. So if we want to contact somebody that's passed on, then we connect with that. If we want a spirit guide to tell, we want spirit guide information, we connect with that. If somebody wants to know where some, a lost object is, we connect with the proper energy to help us find that. It's all the same energy, though. It's all coming from the same place, or the same source, I should say.
Okay. Are you with me, Aaron, or did we lose you, brother?
I'm here, man.
Okay.
I got a couple minutes, then I got to bounce out here for a little while. But
Yep, we are at the end of our time here. So we're going to bring our next guest on. We're just waiting for her. She's just having a little bit of tech issue to connect with us, but hopefully she will be with us shortly. She's asking to do yeah, let's do an interview, Rob. That's fine. Let's bring Geraldine on. And before I let you go, Sharon, do you want to give us like a really quick 2-3 minute meditation so that everything that we've learned today, we can regress that information, ground a little bit, and then get ready for Geraldine. That's the information she's about to drop on us. I think we're going to need to have our mind cleared.
all right, we'll do that. So we're just going to light sage to smudge the sacred space that you've created. Thank you very much, Omar. And all of you
and
chosen
Rob.
to be part of this event. Rob, so I was just about to get to Rob. Thank you, Rob.
It's okay. I've been a little quiet today. There's a lot of things going on at the same time. It's a lot of stuff.
No worries, brother. So everybody just close your eyes. Just focus on breathing deeply. So we're going to go in, inhale. Inhale as long as we can until we can't anymore. Hold it for a few seconds, and then exhale everything we have until we can't anymore. Breathe deeply through your mouth. In as long as we can. Hold it. As we continue to breathe, just let every exhale just shed all of that negativity, any blockages we may have. With every breath, we just let go of a little bit more burden, energetic burden on maybe holding on to us, grasping onto us, negative entities, negative energy. Just shedding all of that darkness. As we continue to do this, I want you to put both feet on the ground. Start to feel that magnetic pull from the Earth's core. That is our anchor. Feel that pull keeping us grounded, keeping us on this earth. Keeping our equilibrium. Continue to breathe. Just let all that nonsense just fall away. All that negativity, all that pain, that anxiety, let it just fall away and fill those new breaths with happiness, positivity, and love. I want you to feel your heart growing with love, expanding. Continue to breathe. With every breath, we just relax a little bit more. Feel lighter with every exhale. Sense of floating while being tethered to this earth. Just floating and hovering right here where we sit. Feel that spirit lifting within you. Just take a minute just to enjoy that feeling. Thank you all for having me. Thank you all for being here. Much love to all of you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Really appreciate
Welcome.
it.
Thank you,
Real
Tony.
quick, Omar, before he leaves, I just wanted to point out that when he started his thing today, the numbers 1212 come up. I showed it on the phone to the audience. Just now, when he started his sage, it was 111. So the numbers are following Aaron today. This is remarkable. It was really cool.
That's super cool. And thanks for pointing that out, Clarence. That's very cool.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. We've had numbers since
That is
yesterday
awesome.
too. So
Thank you all.
it's following the whole event too. It's just
Yep.
wild.
Sure
It's
is.
wild.
Yeah, pretty cool
It's a
stuff.
great
Right
event.
on.
Keep watching. Keep sharing.
Thank you, brother. We will talk to you later. Thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah,
Have
man.
yourself a wonderful afternoon.
You too. See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen. It is my time to bounce out for a little while. I'm going to try and be back in about an hour and a half if I can. I've got to run around a little bit before the fiance gets home, and then it's off to anniversary evening. So
Yeah,
All right.
happy anniversary, Rob.
Yes, happy anniversary and enjoy it. No doubt.
thank you, fellas. And to all the people out there, I just want to thank you all for watching. Keep the energy up. I know you guys will. These two gentlemen are so incredible, and I love everybody out there, especially these two. And we still have 3 more days left of just incredible stuff. So I will see you guys later or tomorrow, whichever comes first, hopefully later. And yeah, guys, everybody have a great rest of the day. I send you all love and positivity, and hopefully it carries you through.
Right on, Rob.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. People, let's show Rob some love for his anniversary. These days are they're very special days. So enjoy yourself, my man,
Thank you.
and have yourself a wonderful afternoon. Keep me posted, and I'll send you the links to the studios anyway. So whenever you can come in,
Yep.
pop in and say hello. And otherwise, I'm going to bring Geraldine on, and we're going to have ourselves a conversation.
Yeah. Have a great rest of the show, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you, Rob. See you later. Hi, Geraldine. How are you?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. What an incredible event this has been yesterday and today, and 3 more days to come. So it's been, just great energy that we've developed here.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear it. I'm be here. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I am having pretty bad technical issues with my presentation, so for some reason it doesn't want to open at the same time as having StreamYard. So
Are you using Chrome to? Yeah, and it's still giving you a hard time, eh?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, 'cause it's really hard to hear her. She's very faint. Yeah.
My microphone is very faint.
There we go. I can hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
No.
No, maybe it's your headphones. Maybe turn your volume up, Clarence, because I don't seem to be having an issue with the volume.
Well, that's strange.
Yes, it seems it's something weird is happening today. Like we were streaming to Rob's Full Spectrum Universe, and the stream was okay, and then it dropped, and then it just suddenly came back. And same thing with Portal to Ascension. We were streaming there yesterday, and I've streamed there many times on multiple days. And this morning I went to stream there, and nothing really came on, and so I had to contact Neil. I was like, "What's going on over here?" And same thing with the Paul Wallace channel. Tried to stream there, and same thing. So it's kind of weird energy that's happening today, but it's all good, right? It's all good, no problem. I can hear you. You guys, let me know in the comments if you guys can hear Geraldine. If so, then fantastic. If not, maybe try turning up your volume, because I'm not having any issue hearing Geraldine. Oh, it looks like Geraldine is frozen too.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it looks like she froze. Okay, well, we'll give her some time, and and see what happens. She'll come back. I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's just kind of weird thing is happening here today with all these streams. Very, very strange, but that's okay. We are going to be ending this stream after Geraldine, and then we are going to begin a new stream, guys, that we're going to be streaming to all our channels: Portal to Ascension, New Realities, Forgotten Origins, Watchers Talk, Full Spectrum Universe, and yeah, so not really quite sure what else to say. So we'll just wait for Geraldine to come back. And while we're waiting for Geraldine, here, let me share my screen with you guys, and I will go through the schedule for today, what's left for the rest of the day anyhow. We still have a lot of guests, actually, guys, so just hang tight, be patient.
Plus, we got Greg coming on today too as an MC.
Yeah, Greg Bornstein from Open Loops will be here with us this afternoon. He has work commitments.
What is that? No.
Yeah, what is that? In this paradigm, are you crazy? Oh, there's Geraldine right on. She's back.
Cool.
Hey, did we lose the stream?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. You just like froze, and then you disappeared, and I was like, "Wow, what's going on here today? Really is
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. That's never happened before. My entire screen went blank, and everyone was gone. So
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Geraldine. Things happen, and this is one of the treats of going live, right? We just simply have to deal with it.
yes, I guess we do. Very good.
So
Well,
I'm going to bring your bio up here and just quickly go through that with people, and then we'll start our talk. So, guys, our guest here is Geraldine Orozco. Geraldine provides insight as to how DNA is the currency of the past, present, and future, and how consciousness plays an important role. A life-changing contact experience in 2013 resulted in the activation of psychic abilities. In 2017, she underwent several hypnotic regressions with vetted therapists. Regressions uncovered a lifelong history of abduction and participation in human hybridization, with 24 hybrid children as the result. She is now dedicated to the dissemination of knowledge of hybridization programs and research of commonly held dogma of the human genetic timeline, historical record, and human structure. She is a radio host, artist, international speaker, and YouTuber. You can schedule a one-on-one session for hypnotherapy at GeraldineOrozco.com. Geraldine's story is now part of a 16-time winning documentary called Extraordinary: The Seeding, focused on human ET hybridization program. Wow. That is quite something, Geraldine. And while I was reading that, and and having listened to you in the past in other presentations that you've done at like Portal to Ascension and Full Spectrum Universe, I've actually heard a lot of your presentations on Full Spectrum Universe. And the thing that I've always really have resonated with your hybridization program is, I was explaining this yesterday. One of the reasons why I got into doing what I'm doing today is because my wife, for her entire life, she has had some sort of an ET experience, abductions. Because I remember when she tells me that when she was younger, she used to go someplace, and in that place there used to be like these tall people and short people wearing white coats, and she would become afraid from them, and she would run away, and then they would chase her, and eventually they would find her each and every single time, and she never really understood how they would find her. And I'm not speaking with you from or hearing with you from last time. It's all psychic and conscious, and they know something that you're going to do if you just simply think about it. And then now, over the course of years, things have changed a little bit for her. Now doesn't seem like it's physical abductions, but it seems more of a conscious abduction. And she still seems to be going through this process. And it's always the same thing, where you have this tall person standing there looking down at you and doing things with you. So that was the reason why I got into podcasting, because I wanted to understand on a deeper level as to what's happening with my wife, so that I can help her. And then having come across your work, and and having talked to my wife about it, and then now she watches you actually as well, because she's trying to understand as to what's happening. And so I just wanted to share that with you, just to give you a background as to why I'm here, and what's been happening with my wife, and your experiences and her experiences. And not to mention, the really weird thing is that my daughter, she recently became pregnant 6 months ago, but 2 years ago, doctors told her and doctors told us that she would never be able to get pregnant. And then here she is, she's pregnant. And I'm very excited about that, because I'm thinking that this could be a hybrid child, or it could be an indigo child that's coming into this world. I think you're aware of Mariana Serena, I believe her name is. She was on the panel with the hybridization with Neil a couple of weeks ago. My thinking is that my grandbaby is going to maybe be something like that, but I'm not really quite sure. So maybe you can give us a little bit of insight. Give us your background, and and how you came about to where you are today, and and then the contact that you had. That really activated your work to where you are today.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That is really powerful. It's a powerful journey that you and your family have been through, and I have to say it's not one that that's new. And this is the thing that's really powerful, that really brings me into this work, is that many of us are actually experiencing these kinds of anomalous things in our family, with reproduction, with our family nucleus, and with the children that come into our line. And that's where we start to question, these children are special. They're not just the children when we were kids that were just completely focused on, they are children that are incredibly advanced. They have a consciousness, they have an awareness, and the awareness is not just about this lifetime. It goes into their patterns before coming into this lifetime. They remember their past lives. They remember their ET connections. And so the interesting thing about this work is that what we're noticing is that we are really meshing this information. What we as adults, at least for us, it took me, my entire life to come into this information and to understand what contact was and what interdimensionality is, what this kind of consciousness is that we're kind of connecting with. And the wonderful thing about that is that these children are coming in with that ability already instilled in them at that very early age. So it really leads to, in my opinion, another confirmation that what we're experiencing in our dream time, in the subconscious mind, when we are having these states, these altered states, and these experiences with these intelligences, that we are really experiencing something that is happening collectively. It's happening to our entire race. Contact is occurring interdimensionally to our entire human race. And the hybridization program plays an incredibly important role in the evolution of our human race. And it's something that has been happening historically since the origin of time, since the conception of life on this planet. If we just take a look at the origin of how we have evolved from Mesopotamia, how the bloodlines have preserved themselves through all of these ages, coming into the human race that we are today, we are descendants of these lineages. And within that, within our DNA, is an incredibly important, valuable information that is like a snapshot of the entire universe. Within our dark DNA, or within the DNA which we call junk DNA, is actually the information that we need to understand about our multidimensionality. And because we're holographic beings, this is stored within our holographic DNA. Our DNA is actually a system of massive storage of information, much like a crystal or much like a tree that has rings in a tree. It records its environment as it grows, and we're very much like that. And that tells us two things. Number one, that there is an evolutionary process that we are at the center of, maybe much larger organisms. And number two, that we have the ability of shifting and changing that information if we understand how our holographic DNA functions. So this is something that I really lecture on because it plays a part in the hybridization program when we're experiencing it, because the kind of programs that we're involved in men or women in the hybridization program depend on our, let's say, contractual agreements and or cause and effect of previous experiences, alternate experiences that are simultaneously occurring in every moment. And we make these agreements in order to participate in certain programs. Some are sometimes darker and some are lighter. We call the lighter or higher vibration experiences a little bit more expansive when we're talking about these much higher consciousness being put into the timeline. And so the hybridization program is utilizing our genetic information, because our information has a very specific combination of experiences in alternate realities that we are bringing into a new species that is being brought into the earth. And so what we're dealing with now is a new species that it's not really a new species, it's a new wave of hybrids that we're dealing. And what that simply means is that they have access to broader amounts of information. And what that means is that their DNA has been activated. So in my line of work, when I do hypnotherapy, I became a hypnotherapist as a result of my experiences 5 years ago. But it helped me understand how the mind functions, how we are holding on to this information in the multidimensional hologram, and how we can access that information in order to help us, number one, wake up, number two, activate our superhuman abilities, and number three, inform ourselves on our historical evolution, not as we have been taught, but in fact as we really are, which are these incredible storage systems of advanced information. So this is kind of where my focus is, and the clients that I work with every day and people that connect with me from around the world are men and women that have had this contact on one way or another. So it's incredibly confirming time and time again how we experience contact, and I'm going to go into that a little bit. But more importantly, why we're here, the importance of the human soul, the human essence, which is this incredible infinite consciousness of information that can fractalize into more life.
Geraldine, I was there we go. There's my mic working now.
No problem.
I was gonna ask you, and I had the toughest time ever trying to wrap my mind around this, and I've been telling Amy this very same thing, and she's having a very hard time wrapping this around her head, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are. You mentioned we are holographic, right? So indicating that we are interacting with a matrix. Now, I tried to explain that to many, many people and tried to explain that to my wife, but it always comes back to the same old thinking of I pinch, therefore I am, right? So can you explain, maybe clarify as to what the term holographic means when it's applied to us as human beings and the animals on this world and everything that exists on this planet?
Yeah. Well, let me put it in a way. Let's just go to the point of what we are, how this hologram functions. I mean, I'll give you an example. I have been researching really in depth, scientific experiments that have been done on the holographic theory that that as humans. And one of the ones that stands out the most to me is an experiment that was done with mice in which they trained the little mice to go down mazes. And they would remove up to 90% of the brain, and yet the mice would still remember how to go down this maze, even though they would stumble and they would have a whole bunch of problems, motor problems because of the brain parts that were removed and the interconnectivity with that was affecting their movement. They still remembered how to go down there. So what that means is that our memory doesn't store in one local place within the brain. In fact, and what that's showing us is that there really is a holographic network in the system that is storing that information not in one particular place, but in fact, the entire body is somehow storing that. So we think that our brain is basically the engine and the center of information of the body, right? But in fact, it's actually the entire body as a whole organism that functions together to store information, to create information, and to navigate this physical realm. And so to me, I think that's one of the most powerful ways to understand how we function in a holographic manner. And our whole body functions that way. With prosthetic technology, we've been able to see that we can actually train a mechanical arm to move based on the brain signals that we send. So we're merging with other substances like artificial intelligence because of our holographic model, because of our holographic design. And so we need to really think deeper into this. What does that mean about ourselves and these kinds of interdimensional experiences? When we look at our children, they're also having contact experiences. And oftentimes, our children have contact when we have contact. All of this is running in the family lineages. So in our DNA, usually through the mitochondrial, through the maternal lineage, the mitochondrial DNA takes a snapshot of every before generation. So all the experiences that those generations have had, we are storing within our body as well. And we relive patterns of emotional trauma, emotional memory over and over again. So this tells us something about our collective network. If we're reliving certain patterns in our family lineages and we meet other families that have similar patterns, usually this is a vibrational frequency that provides a resonance that creates a match and a pool, a magnetic pool to one another. So this is how we tend to group together as a whole in our world. So this function, it's a fractal design, which means self-similar patterns of behavior and systems that are working micro and macro. It works within the body and it works externally in our human race. So to me, this is an exceptional kind of overview of how we are holographic in a sense. It goes more than just that. Now, if we talk about matter, when you look down to the microscopic level of a material object, you're going to see that there is more empty space rather than physical matter there. So those are yet other networks. And so what we're operating in is a world of quantum non-locality in which we are constantly moving in and out of these spaces. So if we understand how to manage our physical body in this space, we can create and we can destruct. So that's really the most important thing to remember about this holographic system, that we are the beginning and end of everything that we experience. And it's what we control is what we experience. And that right there, I think, is the most important thing to remember.
It makes a great sense, because while you were speaking, I thought about something, and then a question popped up from who am I? And here, I'll put it on screen, and then I'll explain what I was thinking. From who am I? It says, so memory is decentralized. Cool. Joking here, but does memory use Akashic record blockchain tech? And when you were talking about that, I was thinking the same thing, that instead of our memory and our experiences being stored in our hardware, that instead this memory is being stored in the ether, and then, through our pineal gland or through the crystallization of our brain, we're able to, with that antenna, reach into the ether to access the memories that we have. But then on the other side, I was thinking, when you were saying about genetic memory, is that I wonder if this is how evolution is based on, because evolution says that if something isn't working within the certain avatar, whether it be an animal or a human, that it changes itself and the next generation will be a little bit different, adapted. So that would mean that its experiences and its memory is being stored into the ether, and then when the next generation comes in, it has access to that information to make itself adaptable to its environment. Am I on the right path here, or am I just like way off in the left field?
No, absolutely. And yeah, I love that you asked that question, who am I, as well. Because, and I'm not sure how blockchain, the functionality of that, so I wouldn't be able to compare it and tell you if that's the case. But, you're on something when you talk about there being a collective memory, because just as we were discussing, it's as above, so below. We have this record-keeping system, but our entire human race has a record-keeping system, and that is the Akashic records. That's kind of like the DNA, the holographic DNA of the planet and the universe in this time and space. But we have to remember that time is not linear. So in fact, when we are tapping into that information, we are simply tapping into alternate realities that are existing simultaneously. So we have access to that information at all time. We might be, when we talk about evolution, there are many generations of mankind that are currently existing simultaneously and operating at this time, all for different reasons. So I think that there's a certain intelligence in that, which is they are utilizing different kinds of technologies, different understandings of their environment in order to test. It's like we're all simulating this test reality in the same place. And the interesting thing about that is that we are still abiding by the laws and the physics of this plane, the three-dimensional plane, but we're looking at it through different eyes. We're looking at it different ways. Some of us are tapping into really advanced technology, and that advanced technology could be that of the Mayans or the Egyptians that have really advanced technology with some things that even we are unable to tap into yet. And this is where we're beginning to bridge the gap. All of these simultaneous generations are kind of interconnected and learning from one another this experience. So I think that it actually goes even beyond that, because we are connecting to our interdimensional aspects, our ET aspects. All these species that are literally encoded in our DNA allow us the ability to activate superpowers within our body, like our intuitive ability, like our ability to teleport and to telepathically communicate. We all have those abilities. The more and more we activate the physical body and the DNA, we have access to these abilities. And I think that's in the direction that our civilization is headed. Over the next 10 years, we are really moving into that. Whether artificial technology will take that space over before the organic does is up to us. It's up to us and our understanding of that technology.
Now, when we speak of the matrix that we're interacting with here, now, with your experiences with ET and having children, hybrid children, now, is the ET interacting with this particular matrix, or are we? It's a little hard to really get this question out. Is there just like a single matrix, like the universe, this observable universe that we're in, that everything that lives within this universe is interacting with the matrix, or is there like individual matrices for individual planets? You know what I'm saying? Like, Earth would have its own matrix, and let's say Nibiru would have its own matrix, and whatever consciousness that's outside of that matrix can tap into that and interact with it at will. Or is it that we don't have a choice in the matter, that the entire universe is a single matrix and everyone that's born into it is interacting with this one particular matrix. And if we go into a parallel universes, then those would be individual matrices themselves.
So
I don't know, maybe I confused that a little bit.
No, not at all. It's an incredibly important information I've never been asked before. It's a great question. So thank you for asking that, because it talks about another level of some information. One of the things that I was shown is that, and this is through my contact experiences, that the way that matrices are built, there's a certain specific species of intelligence that they master the earths in which the matrices are built. What is a matrix? A matrix it's a holographic simulation of a reality. How do you construct a simulation of a reality? You construct it from the inside out, from the beings that are going to reside in that space, because you have to understand their laws of creation and their laws of interaction in a space, time and space. And so based on that, you create what we see as a matrix. So this Earth plane is very, very specifically constructed and designed in a way to, in a sense, suppress certain aspects of our genetic code to maintain us in this simulation. If we didn't have that DNA suppressed in our system, we would not be able to, we would be way more advanced, or we would not be able to interact with these everyday things. It would be like, next level of this awakening that's happening. Because why do I say suppress? Because there's a certain kind of systemized programming that is occurring at birth when we're coming in, and it's been happening for centuries since the origin of conception of life on this planet. There have been many generations and cycles of civilizations that have reached a peak and seemingly have then kind of dissolved, dropped somehow. And then again, the civilization will reach a peak and then again will kind of dissolve. So we see these patterns historically on Earth. We're kind of going through that pattern again. But again, these patterns, these experiences, these cycles are created and designed by the humans at that time. So there is a specific race, and they were described to me as the red race. They're a red-blooded race that reside red because of this planet specifically. The color of blood that we have and the DNA, the structure of the DNA and the information that we have available is dependent on the organism and the planet in which we are connected to. It depends on the solar system and the sun, the kind of sun and energy that we are living in. And so all of that defines the structure of our reality. So these beings, they construct this, they understand how minerals work, they understand how the earth works, and they construct these holograms. Every single planet that has a different matrix created is designed specifically for those races. And at the center core...
Yeah, I get it. Aha moment.
Yeah, and at the center core of each planet, almost as if it has its own, let's say, blood as well, it has a center core of a sun, of a force that is this intelligence creation. It's life force energy within the center core of each planet. That will dictate the kind of information that is privy to the organisms that live on it. So it's very interesting, because when you start having this interaction with other dimensional beings, you're connecting with beings that come from other solar systems, other, planetary systems, and their construction is completely different, right? Why there is this merging, with these two races, with these different species, is because, again, we are following this self-similar pattern of this unity in which everything is kind of interconnecting with one another in order to become one. We're experiencing that internally, and we're experiencing that in the larger organism. So we live in a multiverse of matrix. All the history of this earth is specific to the information that has been lived in all simultaneous dimensions here. And it's the same for other places. And they pick up on our evolution, on our experiences, and it feeds into their information as well. This is what I call organic, it's a kind of intelligence, and it is something that was shown to me as black goo. We hear of black goo, but there's actually...
Yeah, Brad Olson talked about that at one of our webinars a couple of months ago. That is very fascinating.
It is, absolutely. There is more than just black goo. The idea, they called it black goo, and I can't remember the name of the man that coined that name specifically. It's a European man that coined that name. But this goo, it's an intelligent substance, and it resides within the center cores of the planet. And in fact, we see some of this. It actually can manipulate people based on what the agenda is programmed into that substance. And so each center of the earth has a different core that it usually utilizes to manage the humans or the species that reside on that planet. So yeah, so that's kind of how this kind of holographic, oh, I think you're muted. So I think that's how these holographic systems are created.
Okay, yeah, that really does make a lot of sense to me, and and it kind of falls into one of the questions that came in from New Realities from Barbara Whedon. She was asking, do we pass from matrix to matrix? And you essentially just answered that question. So when we incarnate, and let's say I decide to come back as I don't know, someone, on a different planet, and then I'm incarnating into that matrix, and then once my mission is up there or my experience is up there, and I incarnate and I come here, and I'm pretty much passing from one matrix to the next, to the next, to the next, to gain all that experience to go back to the source, or to try to connect with the singularity.
Yeah, so we are never, so we need to change the way that we look at our human bodies, and it's a very complex thing, and this is what I usually show in my presentations, what I wanted to share with you guys today. What we look like is kind of a web of fractals of ourselves, fragments of ourselves. And so at the center of that fragment is going to be whatever is the most conscious, whatever is the most aware. But we are living out simultaneous lives, simultaneous fragments at every moment. So a part of us that is in an alternate reality, like Barbara was mentioning, do we pass from matrix to matrix? We're living in all of these matrices simultaneously. This is how we have access to our ET contact, to our ET starseed roots, to our information. This is how we start to download advanced information, because we're completely interconnected. And Source is the life force that brings life into all of these fragments that we are. This is occurring simultaneously. So if you can imagine something that looks like a little a star, or a star with many thousands and thousands of points. Every single one of those points is a part of you. And the string that, let's say it's a Christmas ornament, it's a star, and there's a string that connects up to the source. That string is what feeds life force into all of these little points of that star. And so we have access to all of that. You're basically your own universe. It's also the design of the universe functions in that same way. So we're accessing all this information simultaneously, and it's important to understand that for us now here in our current life, because we are able to access aspects of ourselves that have been healed, for example, parts of us that have information that we need in order to bring technology that helps our society advance in a way that is more constructive and productive for the whole. And this is where we are, we need to connect. The more that we connect up to our source, to all of these fragments, we can begin to heal the human race. These hybrids have those connections wide open. They have those abilities to connect to that information. That's why they come in with so much, knowledge and information readily available.
Yeah,
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was waiting for you, Claire. So anytime you want, bro.
I'm sorry, my cam's not working very good here for some reason. I'm on a glitchy deal today for some reason. But anyway, just to go back to what you just said about the universe connection and the ET connection and all that stuff, it kind of resonates with me because of my experience I had when I was young. That would kind of explain how they knew where I was and how they could show up and see me. And when they visit and whatever, they just appear. Because, if that is the matrix, then it would be easy for them just to cross in and out. without even, causing, any kind of a glitch.
Yes, absolutely correct. And the way when we're tapping into this information, we're it's like this giant picture. We're barely looking at the little corner of the whole image, so it's hard for us to place it in our human experience, our human life with our human mind and thinking, because we have to be able to go beyond the limitations of physics, of the understandings of how, even psychology, what we think is psychology, it doesn't apply to this level of intelligence with these beings. So we might, for example, we were talking about feeling that we're running away from something or escaping something. That might be the way that we perceive that experience and how we understand that experience. But in reality, we might not even be really running away. It might just be a subconscious process that is applied, or a meaning that is applied with our mind to something that is completely different that's actually happening on another dimension. It could be emerging with someone that we had already connected with. And in fact, we're not strangers to one another. All of these species we have interacted with. Again, the laws of connection and creation are way more complex than we think. I mean, we make agreements for these experiences in our alternate mindscapes in which we may not be as conscious in this moment to access and to understand them. So that's why training ourselves to become conscious and aware in the here and now is imperative to understanding the technology of this matrix multiverse, because this is how, when we wake up in daytime, we're becoming conscious and aware of ourselves. We begin to bring that into dream time, and that's the next level, conscious state of awareness. And in dream time is when a lot of things happen that we're not aware. We are traveling to different dimensions, interacting with our other fragments of ourselves, and we are usually carrying out all kinds of things. This is how we experience the secret space program, physically and non-physically. This is how we experience past lives. Many things are occurring. And when we go into deeper states, like we're going into astral travel, for example, we're beginning to now affect our reality on those levels consciously. So this is another level of importance. We have the ability of navigating with the non-physical body. And that should be something that we should be able to bring into our everyday lives to understand how multidimensional we really are.
So this is where the law of one would come into play.
Absolutely. And this really, with this understanding, is how the law of one actually makes sense, because otherwise, it just wouldn't fit into our everyday lives. And I think that this is great that we have these conversations, because this is kind of the next level understanding of our human. What is this human body? It is this incredibly advanced intelligence that is interconnected to everything that we would ever require if we engage in activating our abilities. And these are things that all the great sages, all the mystery schools have spoken about, the same thing over and over again. It's the activation of our abilities to access these levels of the subconscious mind that are more important.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is, yes.
Awesome.
It's incredible.
So for the people that don't know what the law of one is, could you kind of explain to them and touch base on that, just in a general realm, so they get an understanding what that means?
Well, it's a very complex thing to explain very, very little, but yes, but to say the law of one is that I would say it in the most layman terms possible, that we are all functioning in this simultaneous interconnection, and so we are one, in other words. And so we affect our reality. There are mechanics to the physical body that are available to us that allow us to affect the reality. And so if we understand how we are affecting reality with our mind, with our body, with our, subconscious mind, we can begin to understand how heavy our expressions are. Every emotion, every thought, every feeling has a huge weight in the collective reality that we're co-creating. So the law of one speaks to the fact that we are all one, and in a sense we have an alchemy within us that can transmute those heavy emotions into positive emotions, and that ability to move through vibrational frequencies of low energy into high is kind of like what this human body is for. And we experience that individually, and we experience that collectively. So kind of very easy way to explain that, and I hope I explained that enough.
That's awesome, man. Good job.
Okay.
Trying to see if there was a comment there.
Yeah.
I'm not getting these. Man, my side here is so glitchy for the moment. I don't know why.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, looks like
No,
we're all
it's
having
okay.
pretty bad technical issues today.
Yeah, it happens. We were having issues yesterday. There we go. Go ahead, Omar.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, Rick. So Rick Keefe asks, is the string that I was, giving an example of, what is known as in astral projection as the silver cord? Yes, in astral projection they talked about the silver cord as the connection to source, but and that's exactly what that is, right? The strings of all of these star points has a cord that connects to its origin. And this is also how the holographic system functions. There is an origin to all of the holograms, which are those points that are being created. Those holographic realities are all part of what this essence is experiencing. And so the silver cord is the source that we have running through the body that feeds the real life force into the body, the soul, right? That's actually what's inhabiting this little cavity, this little body that we have. So the interesting thing is that we have the ability of growing that silver cord, making it wider, making it bigger. And what that simply means is that you are exercising your awareness, your presence in this. It's where your consciousness is growing. We actually have the ability of growing the consciousness of all of these star points that make up your reality. And again, you do so by waking up more and more in all of these levels. And it starts with your current lifetime. When we heal something, what does healing mean? It means becoming whole. Again, so what that means is when we heal a trauma that has happened to us at childhood, we are reintegrating a fragment of ourselves that was fragmented, literally, and reinstalled into the body. We reintegrate that, again, becoming whole. So fragmentation occurs when we experience an experience that we don't know how to navigate, or in other words, we feel helpless. Anytime that we feel helpless, fragmentation is occurring. And so the soul is fragmented. An aspect of yourself creates another little shard, a sub-shard in your body, in this present physical experience. And you look like this star as well. So this is so similar. We are these spherical organisms of consciousness that can become fragmented. So when we heal, we complete that part of us, we change the perspective of that aspect, and we become whole again. So this is happening, again, micro and macro. We heal our life, and we heal the collective by becoming whole within the collective, by healing those fragments of ourselves.
That's wonderful, wonderful answer, Geraldine. Really resonate with that. Now, I was going to ask a question earlier, but I totally forgot. Maybe I'll remember here in just a couple of minutes. This is from Who Am I? Are there any hybrids or star seeds who are monitored only remote and do not have any reported abduction, little to no contact most of their life? Basically, hybrid is stealth and concealed until activation needed?
Okay, let me process this question. Okay, so are there hybrids who monitor and don't experience the abduction? So first of all, we need to change the word abduction, because the abduction means that we're being taken without our will. And in reality, I don't believe that ever happens. I don't believe there is such thing. I don't believe there is such thing as being taken without your will. There is always an agreement for the interaction with these interdimensional and physical beings. What does that mean? It means that the person that is experiencing this so-called abduction, or this experience where they're removed from one reality into another, is unaware. They are unconscious, and most likely they won't remember their full experience because of their unconsciousness. So the idea is, in order to remember the agreements that were made and what they're doing, they need to wake up consciousness and remember that. Now, starseeds who monitor remotely. Now, starseeds, let's go back to the beginning. Hybrids that are created sometimes are left on board craft, and they are trained, and they are made to live on craft. And they are, because of their genetic make, they are interconnected to the organisms that made them. And sometimes they are created to exist and to learn from the information that is being brought in from their other fragments. So for example, for me and my hybrid children, whatever I learn in this lifetime, whatever I evolve as, they are experiencing from that craft. This is how interconnected we are.
Kind of like quantum entanglement.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the design. And so, so it's the same thing for some hybrids that haven't woken up their experience, that are living here. I believe we are all hybrids, because we are all a cocktail of this DNA. And I think when we look at historically, we might be able to come to that agreement as well. But the idea is that who is remote is actually learning from their fragments. Now let me come to the second part of your question here.
That was, where did it go?
Who am I? I got it. And so when you talk about being a hybrid that is stealth and concealed until activated needed. Okay, so what does activation mean? Activation is when we are basically activating strands of our DNA. What does that mean? That the holographic system is activating aspects of itself, usually in the non-physical aspect of ourselves. So, for example, the everyday human will not have as high intuition. It'll be functioning from the reptilian brain, which is mostly this mechanical, survival mechanisms. The organism, the human that is more evolved, that is activating its DNA, is now activating other aspects of its brain, the pineal gland, the spiritual gland, going into its intuition, to its system of interdimensional motors and creation. So that's where it begins to activate the human body. And it's activating the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then up to the upper levels, the eighth. That's when you start seeing yoginis, these great masters, these people that meditate. They have activated up to the eighth level, and that's where they begin to manage creation. This is how they can manifest things. This is how they can co-create. So what does it mean to be activated? It means to have these layers active. Hybrids that are on other dimensional planes usually have all of those higher ones activated, but not the lower, because they're not incarnated in the physical plane. So again, it's through this kind of entangled model of being interconnected to one another that we begin to generate understanding of the collective organism through this connection.
Geraldine, how many levels are there altogether?
The human body has direct access to 13-dimensional planes, to the 13th chakra, which a chakra is a dimensional existence that we are experiencing in. And through connection to one another, we are merging those experiences to one another, and we connect with each other by resonance. So, but we're not limited to 13 dimensions. There are infinite dimensions. Each dimension will allow you access to the multiverses that we are currently simultaneously connected to. So it's hard to, if I were to draw it, it's kind of like an axis, and every single one of those dimensional planes is is like these universes, but in linear design, in other words, that we have access to. And so we tap into that information and we have access to bringing it in. This is how channelers work. You know, this is they tap into these higher levels of information.
Now, one question before we close out here, Geraldine, is I understand the hybridization program, right? But maybe not absolutely fully. But if we have like tons and tons of people here on Earth that are being taken to these ships and are creating these hybrid children, what is happening with these children? Are they being placed back here on Earth once they've reached a certain age, or are they being placed on a different planet to which their vibration is compatible with? Right? Because you can't have like all those, tens of thousands of children living on a ship. I suppose you can, but I'm just wondering, like, what happens with these children? Like, what's the end game with that, right? Do they come to Earth? Like, for instance, you have 24 hybrid children. Will those 24 be placed here on Earth to live out their life, or will some of them stay on the ship and some others will be moved elsewhere, or just like, spread apart everywhere to do whatever it is that they need to do?
So the idea of hybridization is in order to enmesh this human essence into a matrix multiverse deeper and deeper through fragmentation. Because when we give life to another being, it's an aspect of us that is participating in the creation of that other being. So, in other words, we can bring back our aspects of ourselves from these essences. And when we become whole, change the vibrational frequency as a whole, and navigate in another realm of reality. Hybrids that are being created are designed for a spectrum. Just like in everything, we experience high vibration programs. The high vibration programs, these hybrids are ultimately meant to be reinstalled into the reincarnation cycle. And the idea is they're highly advanced in order to help pool and evolve the human race quicker and move them through this evolutionary process quicker.
I see. Okay, I get it. I've formulated this theory, and what you just said it really makes sense to me. The theory is very complex, right? So just in layman's terms, essentially what I'm saying is that about 10 or 12,000 years ago, when this shift happened here on Earth, some sort of a force came from outer space and essentially hostily took us over, and then through genetic manipulation, they've increased the size of our reptilian brain so that we're always in that flight or fight mode. And we've existed like that for a number of thousands of years now. And then now another ET force has intervened in this process to try to take us back to our original mind, or our original form as we were pre 10, 12, 14,000 years ago. I say that because I'm connecting this to the Tower of Babel, because in the Tower of Babel, it speaks about one common language that everybody on the world spoke, which, in my mind, that says, okay, well, then at that time, everyone had some sort of telepathy ability, and they were speaking the language of thought, and within their communities, they probably had physical language that they spoke, but not everyone else understood them. So when this connection was severed, and the confusion of the tongues is that remote, that dialect that you're speaking within your own community, and now you no longer have that ability of telekinesis or telepathy that you can speak with someone across the world. Now, because that one common language is lost, the confusion of the tongues is that we don't understand each other. And now this ET force is coming in that's intervening and trying to help us raise our vibration and take us to that next conscious level. I wonder if they're not trying to repair the damage of what's happened in the last 10, 12, 14, 15,000 years.
Interesting. That's an interesting take on all of this. I tend to look at language just like DNA, because there's a similarity in that there's syntax that are being created and meaning that is applied to those. DNA functions in the same way. And so I believe, and through research, it's actually been shown that potentially language could have originated by the biological understanding or this subconscious understanding of how DNA is written. It is kind of written into these, the syntax. And so language then kind of came about into the human race. But the fact that we have different languages, to me, is also another confirmation that we are a cocktail of DNA. Because with the language that we speak, is the part of our DNA that is activated, aspects of our DNA that is activated. And so it really speaks to an entire world. But what happened is that because we live in this matrix, the design of this matrix is fragmentation, it's compartmentalization. The purpose of that was to create these kinds of separate aspects to represent or to manifest that kind of fragmentation. Every single it's an example of separation that has occurred within races here on this planet. But really, what the universal language is a vibrational frequency, right? And it's the intention. And so it's the design of the world coming back into one, again, that one. We have to speak the universal language, which is non-verbal, non-physical, it's vibrational, it's frequency that we're now learning to speak. And that's kind of what the push is for the human to evolve beyond that language. And we see that. We're able to communicate by our expressions, by our emotions, our intentions that are felt by other races. They're able to pick up our communication. That's kind of the language that we want to come into. That's the advancement. So in my opinion, it's not so much to... it's more about creating separation in the races, the illusion, giving the illusion of separation, but it also speaks to the aspects of our DNA that are activated within each one of our races here on Earth.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I don't want to open up another can of worms because then we'll be here until like late this afternoon. Thank you very much, Geraldine. I really appreciate your time here this morning. You're a total light warrior, and I just love your work and the message that you have, your energy, and the way you really deliver your content. I really appreciate that. So before we take off, can you tell people where they can get a hold of you if they need some guidance or want to just connect with you? I posted your website address in the comments here just a few minutes ago, and plus it's way up in the comments again. So if you guys want to scroll, maybe up, you'll find Geraldine's website address. But is there any other places where people can get a hold of you, Geraldine?
Awesome. Well, if you are an experiencer and you want to join my support group, I have a monthly support group at hybridmother.com that I really invite you to come in. We have some of the most incredible conversations there, and contactees from all around the world participate in that. And of course, if you want to get a hypnotherapy, you can just visit my website, GeraldineOrozco.com, and I'm happy to support you and be of service. I want to thank you so much for having me here today, and it was an honor and a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. Really appreciate it. Clarence, you have any final words?
I just want to say it was awesome, and I'll definitely I'll be in contact.
I hope so. Much love to you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much, Geraldine. I'm going to post hybridmother.com in the comments, guys. So if you want to go and check that out, and GeraldineOrozco.com. With this being said, we are going to switch gears here, and we're going to switch into our other studio because our day is longer than 12 hours today, and YouTube really doesn't like to keep anything after 12 hours. I made that mistake a few weeks ago, and I lost one of the presenters that I had. And I don't want to repeat that mistake again. So we have another 9 hours coming up here, and running about 15 minutes behind here, guys. So I'm going to duck out of this studio, and then we're going to go live in all the channels that we're live here right now. So if you guys want to come back here in about 2 minutes, we will be live with John Shaughnessy. So we'll see you guys in just a couple of minutes.